Welcome to Community Forum. Today is December 7th. This is the day where something happened in Hawaii, as we all remember, Pearl Harbor Day, and we want to honor those who gave their lives for our freedom. But in addition, we want to, my name is Priscilla Almquist Olsen. I'm your host. Most of you know that. But today I wanted to bring some joy and happiness into a day that can sometimes be a little too somber. And so I have welcomed the Spagone brothers, Dave to my left and his brother Chris. And these boys, these men, young men, have contributed to our musical culture here in Easton in a way that many people have not done so. They have been unique in their style. Chris is a composer. We're going to hear hopefully today some of his works that he's composed, and the two of them are going to play the guitar. They're not confined to one instrument either, and we're going to learn a little bit more about that. So, Dave Spagone,
Hi,
welcome.
Priscilla. How are you?
I am fine, especially since you're here. And
Delighted to be here as always.
And Chris, thank you so much for...
Thanks for having me.
Yes. We've tried to get you guys together. You have such busy schedules. So I'm so happy that you're here today. And you come from a musical family. I understand there were no girls, only 5 brothers.
Yes.
Can you imagine that poor mother?
Yes, and as I always say when I'm on this show, you know, I wish my dad was a little more like Joseph Jackson and got us lined up and got us, you know, straight up to, you know, in showbiz, like 5 brothers should have been, but it just didn't happen.
But all 5 are musically talented, right?
We're all adept. We all play a little something.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Okay, so tell me how all that started and how young were you? Chris, can you give us a little bit of history, family history?
Oh, well, I'm the youngest, and I definitely was influenced by my 4 older brothers. 3 of them all played guitar. I think it really started with the record collection that was in our house.
Yes.
And, you know, if it wasn't for that record collection with so many classics of Beatles and Rolling Stones, and Led Zeppelin and all of that classic stuff. If I didn't have that, I probably, you know, wouldn't have gone towards music. I love the arts, visual artist, but you know, there was no getting around it that brothers had guitars in the house, there were drum sets, so it was just...
And
like,
there was a piano.
Piano, it was
Yes.
just by osmosis that you were eventually gonna learn something. You know, none of us really took a lot of lessons, but because there was so much music in the house, and not through our parents, it was just through the brothers. They weren't playing anything.
What was the golden age of album rock and, you know, the golden age of popular music, I think. You know, I'm born in 70, so, you know, it's just sort of, we grew up with that record collection. But I think even more important than the Beatles and the Stones was, I used to like to read interviews with them where they talked about Roy Orbison and Chuck Berry and their influences, and it led Chris and me, you know, even as youngsters, to sort of seek that music out and
Well,
were
now you're
influenced
talking
by
my
that.
time.
Right.
You know, Elvis and Pat Boone and all of those guys. You know, those were my idols when I was in high school. But you know, it's wonderful. So in classical music, I mean, you obviously have looked into that too, right?
Yes,
And
yes, I really.
And how does that affect the way you play? What impact does classical music have on your repertoire?
Well, European classical music, certainly with my understanding of harmony and rhythm and those principles of music, they're very important. But even more important to me was what they call American classical music, which is the jazz idiom. And for me, it almost treaded the line between both worlds, because my favorite performers were composers like Thelonious Monk and Miles Davis and the jazz artists that I went back and studied these things at UMass Amherst. I told you the great Max Roach was my professor at University
Yes.
of Massachusetts. He was on faculty. So it really just opened a treasure trove of diverse musical influences.
And that's why you enjoy playing these diverse musical traditions. I mean, you're at home with Chuck Berry as much as you are with, let's say, Lightfoot and I'm trying to think of Led Zeppelin.
You know what my favorite vinyl LP is at home that I'm listening to now?
What is it?
It's Chopin played by, I can't remember his name, Albert, great pianist. But it's such a great...
Okay, is it something that's newly recorded, or is it an oldie?
No, it's an old LP.
Yeah.
That was in an old collection, and it's Arthur Rubinstein plays Chopin's Nocturnes, and it's the greatest LP. I listened to it, and I'm wearing it out.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And so, Chris, you mentioned that there weren't too many music lessons that were paid for. And I know in the past when Dave and I have talked that he plays by ear. And is that genetic? Is that a genetic trait that your family has?
It's it's a mistake. It's certainly could have been a better musician if I had learned to read music or if I took proper lessons. I definitely learned by ear with vinyl records on the turntable, moving the needle. Oh, I want to try that again. I want to try that again. And nowadays, I started playing with some older guys, older than me, about 5 or 6 years ago, and they were just starting, and I was like, geez, you guys are learning pretty quickly. And they were like, yeah, and I would bring a new rock and roll song, and they were picking it up, and I said, geez, it took me a lot longer, and I came to realize that, they weren't moving the needle on the vinyl anymore. They had YouTube. They can hit a button and rewind it and listen to it. They also have tutorials on the computer. So they're getting this concentrated lessons much better than what I did in the early 80s. And then I think one other huge factor which people don't think about is this little gadget right here is an automatic tuner for your guitar. So if I tell you that I squandered so much time in that bedroom trying to play the guitar and to put it into tune by ear, and it was a big waste of time because someone who could have invented this little thing, and I could have been practicing more. I could have learned something quicker, and I think that I'm encouraging people out there now, if you want to learn how to play guitar or piano, there are great tutorials. Dave and I will play a gig and we'll say, hey, we got to learn such and such. And nowadays, I used to look through a book. We had a Neil Young book and a Beatles book and a Rolling Stones book, and I'd look for the chords. Now it's online, and you can see the chords, and you can even find some guy who's going to show you how to play it, and this guy's not any good. You go to the next one, there's someone else showing you how to do it. So there's so many tools out there now to learn. It doesn't answer the by the ear part, but it was just a lot of painstaking time of just listening and listening and listening.
But
I don't use any of those resources.
No.
I do play by ear. I do still move the needle on the record. Just get that on record.
are you the oldest?
No, we're both
the youngest.
We're the two youngest.
Oh, the two youngest. Okay.
So it's important to know that we chased our older brothers around for pointers and help, but
They didn't give us a lot of help.
They didn't give us a lot. So
It was more like, don't touch my guitar when I'm not
don't touch
home.
my stuff.
So yes.
So Chris and I played drums first, and I did take formal drum lessons and did learn to read. So it was a little bit of a different path. But
I wasn't allowed to touch his drums.
Yeah.
And I didn't. I didn't touch.
But we would play together. We would play to jam, as they say.
Yeah. But now you played what do you call it? The
Oh, the piano?
no, the something board. I'm having a senior moment.
Keyboard.
Keyboard.
Keyboard, piano.
And you know what? I like you on the keyboard much better than on the guitar.
Really?
Yes, because the tone is fuller. You can be much more dramatic. You can put more emphasis in the music where you want it. I mean, it just I don't know. I just think and then when you're singing and you're playing the keyboard, it's just fabulous.
Thank you.
And when you sing, you're welcome. When you play the guitar and sing, it's fabulous too. And Chris, your music is different. It seems your music is more in the jazz tradition, and also psychedelic. I don't want to say that, but
No, do say that.
Oh,
He
yeah.
takes that as a
Well,
compliment.
you had
Psychedelic.
mentioned classical music, and Dave has a much better background, but for both of us, I mean, I think things change when we listen to Frank Zappa. And Frank Zappa was a man who bridged classical or orchestral music with rock and roll. And it was the first person that we saw doing that. I mean, yes, the Beatles were bringing strings into music, but Zappa was doing it. He was just composing. It was a hodgepodge of comedy in jazz, in rock and roll, in avant-garde, in classical music. And once I heard him, it was the game changer. I mean,
does that impact on your composing?
Yes, because when I try to do something, I think of Frank Zappa. Where his kids were so used to his eccentric nature that they would listen to something on the radio and they'd say, "Dad, where's all the what did they call? They had like a name for like, where's the crazy parts to it?" And they're like, "There's no crazy parts in this music. It's the Captain and Tennille. It's this." And he's like, "I know, but where's the marimbas and the gongs?" And
They were looking for that diversity
Right.
and weren't finding it in mainstream pop music.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
So I think about that sometimes when I compose. I can't obviously do it like him, but and I don't compose as much as him. But I try to do a lot more instrumentals. I've worked on stuff for people's YouTube channels. There's a guy that makes spices and rubs for meat, and he has a cooking tutorial show, and he needed background music. And once he asked me for that, it sort of was like, oh, I have all the stuff that I want to do, and some of it's a little boring. It's not boring to me, but it's stuff that's in the background, and they show him chopping.
Theme music,
It's
and
theme
Priscilla
music.
knows all about that. She's got a TV show.
What's that?
Theme music.
Theme
Oh,
music.
theme music. Yes.
So I sort of have liked that recently, and I'm trying to do a little bit more of that. There's another guy that has a YouTube channel about betting on horses, and he needed some theme music, and I've done it. And
It's not a bad gig.
yeah, and the one I'm
No.
most proud of, we have a mutual friend who's a best-selling author. He wrote the book on the Ice Bucket Challenge and Patriots Day, and
Oh, yeah.
and recently collaborated with James Patterson on the assassination of John
The
Lennon.
Last Days with John Lennon.
So he has a nice podcast called Saints, Sinners, and Serial Killers, and it's a true crime podcast, and I composed the music for it recently, the intro and the outro, and it was really fun, really fulfilling.
And then they did a live presentation of it on the Wilbur Theater stage, and Chris played all the music
Oh, how
live.
wonderful.
Yeah.
How great. And so, but I didn't realize, Dave, that you compose too.
I do.
Woof.
Composes
What about
most
you?
of
I
all
do.
of our stuff.
Just when you see me around town at the brewery and in the taverns, I'm playing, popular music that people recognize, but I have a whole
Repertoire.
trove of
Right, old drove. Yeah.
original music.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what are you doing with it? Are you trying to?
I'm not trying to do anything. When I was younger, I had high hopes and stuff, but I never really got, big representation or never got that big break. So now I don't write as much as I used to, but I have a lot of songs. I mix them into my playing out repertoire.
But I mean,
But I don't do a whole lot with them.
Is there a avenue for or venue for selling your compositions?
Oh, probably. I'd need to find a good agent, I guess. I don't really seek that out.
You're too busy.
Yeah, I'm a family man, you know?
Yes, I know. But you know, you have all these gigs, and so you're so busy. I mean, everybody
It's all
has.
word of mouth, Priscilla.
It is all word of mouth.
I don't work hard at it, and
so-
I have all I can handle.
Okay, so Dave, what's your contact information?
My phone number, can I give it out on this show?
Absolutely, give it out.
You know, if you want to hire some live music and, you know, and you got a little party going, you call 774-444-4269. It's my personal number. And you just tell me what you want and how long you want it for, and then I come up with a price proposal. It's like any business, Priscilla.
Right, right.
Right?
Right.
You can text that number if you like.
So tell me the kinds of parties you've attended. What sorts of people want your beautiful music?
Well, I've been doing this a long time.
Yes.
So everything from New Year's Eve and other kind of holiday parties to when I was young in my early 20s and all my friends were getting married, and you know I had a pretty large circle of friends. I went to UMass Amherst. I played at all their weddings. Well, lo and behold, now I'm playing all their 50th birthday parties, and so I get a lot of repeat, you know, business.
Yeah.
You know, again,
And you do the open mic at Shoveltown Brewery.
at Shoveltown Brewery right here in historic Northeastern Center. I host their open mic Thursdays, most Thursdays. Sometimes they'll alternate a host here and there, but it's been a lot of fun. They've been doing it since their inception, and we get a great crowd of people in there.
Yes, and I heard Chris for the first time
Right.
at open mic, and you were fabulous. Now the two of you together
Yes.
have performed.
Yes.
Tell us, Chris, a little bit about that.
Well, Dave's unique where he can play alone. We can play just the two of us. Sometimes we play in a trio. We've played in a trio, and then we've played with 4 and 5 piece. So with every change like that, it's rehearsal. It's figuring out who's going to play what. The other guys that we do play with, we do have a mix of changing instruments. You know, including Dave. He can be the drummer and the singer. He can be the guitarist and the singer, or he can play the keyboard and be the singer. And a friend of mine, Pete Sarantopoulos, he and I can both play guitar and bass. And then our good friend Jason Buell can play horns and guitar and sing. And so it's when we make a set list, it's like alchemy.
You've seen that multi-instrumental
Yes, I
band.
have.
Yeah.
And
So-
Jason Buell, he also plays harmonica, right?
I've seen him play it.
Yeah, and then he plays the flute.
He plays flute,
And
tenor,
guitar.
soprano, sax, tenor.
Yeah. Oh, I know tenor.
And
sax.
you talk about composers. Jason's done score work, and
And the three of you just get on beautifully. I mean, it's almost like synergy, you know, that that
Jason's been, you know, he's like another Spagone brother.
Yes.
We've been friends. You know, we all grew up around here together.
Yeah,
So we've
so-
been playing music together a really, really long time.
Now tell us about where you guys grew up,
Well, we were born in Brockton, and
like most of us.
yeah, and then we moved to Easton just around 1980 or so, as the town was growing immensely, and we were already playing music together as brothers, and then we seemed to always gravitate toward other musical people. We have, as Chris said, although our parents didn't really pass on the musicality, we have a large extended family on both sides where there's musicians smattered everywhere. We've got cousins and stuff that play blues guitar that'd knock
Yeah,
your
you know,
socks off. But we were always music crazy.
Yeah, but don't you think, Chris, that it's genetic? You've got all this talent on both sides of your family, and plus all 5 of you are musically talented. I mean, we know that artists' children are also very good artists. I mean, there's got to be a genetic component here.
Well, it's funny. It's also a very strongly opinionated and passionate about other people's music, and it's funny because some people don't understand. Like, geez, why are you so this person's good, this person's bad, famous people. And I was like, you know what? All my friends are like that too. We grew up around friends who don't play and
Have the same musical snootiness.
they have the same, right, they have the same thing, like, oh, those guys are so overrated. And it's like other people look like, well, who cares that much? We're like, well, we do. We're just such music heads. And, we're passionate about it, but yeah, there has to be some sort of genetic link somewhere.
And
For the young people today, you have to understand, back then, you argued about rock
We
bands.
definitely did. We argued
People
about it.
cared about it. It's not the same now. That was a big thing. If you wore the wrong band's T-shirt,
Right.
you faced some serious ridicule back then. So there were very heated debates about that kind of thing.
And back then too, with the vinyl album covers, I was really drawn to the visual aspect of it. That's lost today. You have it. There's not even a CD anymore. But the artwork on these album covers, Little Feat, they had this great artist. Pink Floyd had this company that would design all those great images, and I was really drawn to that, even almost much more than the music. I would stare at the album cover, and in the back of it, while it was playing on the turntable, and my love of art, I think, came from so many of those album covers. Even heavy metal, people like Iron Maiden, there's this great artist in these great illustrations of this demonic sort of image. And my next door neighbor had posters from these album covers. Like, geez, I'd really like to learn how to create something like this. This is great. This is part of the music, and
Side note, Chris is an award-winning illustrator as well.
I don't know about award-winning, but I'm an illustrator. But
is that what you do by trade?
no, I don't do it by trade. I do it on the side. I am an art teacher, but I don't do it by.
You're an art teacher.
You can see some of Chris's work at the.
It is no longer there, but I was at the Easton Co-op art gallery, which was it was a great thing for me.
Go back.
I'm very appreciative of the time that I had there. I did sell a few small pieces, but it was very cool just to be in that world for the
Yes,
first
yes.
time. Even though it's only open one day a week, I encourage people to go down there and
Yeah.
see the wonderful artists that are all local.
Yeah. Now, I'm
right.
on the board of the Easton Shoveltown Culture District, and we sponsor that. And it was
Yeah.
Carolyn Cole, the
I-
originator and founder. God bless,
God
bless
her
her
soul.
and bless her.
She gave me that shot when I went down there. I showed her my book, and I was so appreciative. She said, "Yeah, this is all."
She gave me
nice."
gigs downtown. We
Did you?
love Carolyn.
Yes, I know.
Yes.
So did I. And she was always a person who, not only did you respect and love her, but when she called and said, I need this and this and this, and are you available? Can you go and do this and that? And did anybody ever say no to Carolyn? Never. No, because we really loved and admired her. So, but you ought to get back involved in that. That's.
I know she gave me some great advice. I did these pictures of historic buildings of Easton, which I know a lot of artists do. And but I like doing technical drawings, so I have Oaks Ames Hall and a couple of cool perspectives of it in Borderland Castle. And she said, if you put these on greeting cards, they will sell. And I have not yet, but my wife does remind me. She's like, you should make those greeting. Christmas is around the corner. But they came out great. I thought I was very proud of them. So yeah, I have to have her to thank for encouraging me. And
So you're an artist both with pen and paint, as well as strings and on the musical end. It's amazing how all that connects. Yeah. And Dave, how about you? Are there any other connections besides just the music?
I like to draw as well. I draw and paint a little, but music is.
Oh, well, you were, yeah.
It's what I do all the time. When I'm not. When I'm not working, I'm playing music.
Yes, right. And we love to hear it. So what is your vision for the future, the two of you? I mean, you do have gigs together with Jason Buell and then there's two other guys that are friends of yours, Chris, that I've heard.
And Dave's son, Jason, my nephew.
Right, my son Jason has been playing with us too. He's been
The next
playing
generation.
saxophone.
I got to have you on this show.
Yeah, that's a show for another day.
Yes, it is.
We'll bring,
Father and son.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
But the future, I want to play out till I drop dead on stage. That's what I want to do. I want to.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna. It's something I'm gonna grow old gracefully and
Well,
play.
you know, that attitude is the same as Tom Rush. Now, we heard Tom Rush Friday night, last December 2nd. He gave a great concert, as usual. It was
Oak Ames Memorial Hall.
Oak Saints Memorial Hall, and it was Carolyn Cole who invited him the previous 2 times when I heard him. And he's 81
Yeah,
and
Hey.
going strong. And
Got a few more years, Dave.
I do.
Yeah.
he's got concerts every night. He might have 5 out of 7 days he's got concerts. It's amazing. And he brought a young man, David, I forget his last name, but he graduated Berkeley in Boston, and he was on the piano and the guitar. It was fabulous. So, you know, there's so much music and talent in the Boston area, and I think a lot of it has to do with Berkeley School and the New England Conservatory. But your time at Amherst, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I was a psychology major at school, but my ulterior motive was just to, go somewhere where I could, get a good band together, because that's right when I started playing live. And that is where I started that experience of playing live and knowing that it was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I really feel comfortable doing it. So, a lot has been said about that, and how self-centered you might be to get into that sort of thing. But I don't know. I always felt it was something that was one of the only things I felt I was good at, and I improved, and people seemed to. I got a lot of good feedback with what I was doing.
Yeah, obviously, because you're great. You're good. So was
Thank
Chris. I mean,
Thank you.
and so that brings me to a question about the other 3 brothers. What happened to them?
Well, Chris and I are really the only 2 working musicians. Our oldest brother lives in the Los Angeles area, and he plays and he writes, but he doesn't play.
But when he comes home once a year, it's there's one thing on the agenda. Well, couple things. We have to see Uncle Peter, we have to see Uncle Michael, and jam night will be on Wednesday at Dave's
we
house.
always have a big.
Yeah. So
music session.
It's sometimes the pain, because he'll email us a list of 25 songs he wants to play, and Dave and I don't want to play. We don't want to play about 18 of them.
Right.
But we do.
But we learn them anyway.
We learn
for
them
him,
anyway,
and
just for
then-
him, for one day a year. And we get our cousin over. He's a really great blues guitarist. He plays in the South Shore too. His name's Jimmy Percio, but he is, if you ever see his band, he's lightning fast. He's great. But we have a great time, and but it's a bunch of work. We have a brother down in Florida. He
he's a working
plays. He's a
musician.
working musician.
And then our other brother Mike, he plays piano, but he reads and plays, and he doesn't play out
Doesn't
live.
play out.
It's just not what he wants to do.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody, Priscilla.
No,
No, it's a
and
big
it's a
pain.
hard life too, because you have long hours.
Oh yeah, I burn the candle at both ends.
Yeah.
Yeah,
try
you
that.
do. Dave does.
You've seen me in
Our
action.
have.
Our old bass player just texted us a story this morning about a place that we had a long-standing gig at in Boston called The Good Life.
Right in downtown Crossing.
And wow, the memories, it was the late 90s, and we played there probably 30, 40 times. But again, it's a grind. I mean, parking in Boston, unloading amplifiers and drum sets, in the rain, getting out at 2 a.m, and getting your car and splitting up, a few $100s between 5 of you. It's a tough.
It was crazy, but it was a labor of love.
Labor of
You know,
love.
a lot of good
Yes.
memories doing
Yes.
that.
Right.
Yep,
Right.
it was.
It's good for the soul.
It
It
is.
was great.
And brings you lots of joy.
But now I like playing near home.
Yeah.
You know, it's great.
Well, I can tell you, it brings me lots of joy when I hear both of you play. And everybody in the audience is so enamored of your music. And especially the song, because you do a whole medley. So you touch on every era. So not only do we hear things from the 50s and 60s, but the 70s, the 80s, and 90s. And so everybody, it's a touchstone for all of us, you know? And we appreciate some of the music that we didn't grow up with also. So you really reach out to your audience in a very special way.
Thank
and I
you.
appreciate
Thanks.
that.
I formulate my repertoire, and you know, so that
Yes.
it's a little something for everyone.
Yeah, and when you play some songs that we're all familiar with, you give it your own Spagone twist, and I like that.
Thank
and
you.
Chris, your compositions, your instrumental compositions, are so intricate and complicated, and it forces everybody to really listen.
I'm going to
And-
mess it up when I play it. That's how complicated it is. That's how complicated it is. I've yet to get through it without a mistake, so we'll see what happens
Okay,
today.
and so we're going to hear some of that right now. And they have brought their guitars with them, and they're going to share some 4 pieces, you said? And we're going to sit back and enjoy. So let's get to it.
Great.
And
Okay.
before that, I want to just thank you so much for being my guest on Community Forum today, and
you.
bringing your music and your joy and your love of music. Because there are so many of the people out there who are watching who share that love and are so appreciative of what you can give them that they can't provide themselves. So having the musical talent is such a gift, and we want to thank you so much, Dave Spagone, Chris Spagone,
Thank you.
for your gifts to us today and always in the future. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. We thank you for
Appreciate it.
having us.
Yeah, and to our listening audience out there, thank you for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed this program as much as we have enjoyed presenting it to you. These guys are wonderful. They love what they do, and it really shows. So thank you. And until next time, Priscilla Almquist Olsen bidding you adieu. And until next time, be well.
Ready?
Sure.
Strumming my guitar by the banks of this old polluted river. Get my inspiration singing songs to all the garbage floating by. People used to come for miles around to the river. But ain't no money for picnics, or money for time, or magic to stem the way time flies. Strumming my guitar by the banks of this old forgotten river. Wishing that I had an opportunity to travel back in time. Not 100 years, but maybe just a few. When the water here was crystal clear and blue. Maybe I will get another chance to talk with you once again. Strumming my guitar by the banks of this old polluted river. Can't see my reflection on the surface of the water, murky brown. People used to say you were lucky if you lived beside the river. I can't recall the last time that I seen one of those people in this town. So I'm strumming my guitar by the banks of this old neglected river. 'Cause singing little songs about Mother Nature might be coming back around. Not in 100 years, but maybe just a few. And the water might turn back to clear and blue. And maybe I will get another chance to talk with you once again. Once again. Once again. So that was an original song I wrote. It's called Clear and Blue. And it's a song really not about anything in particular. It's about wishing I could go back in time for whatever reason. A lot of my writing is a little abstract like that. This next song is by Chris. Chris writes a little differently than me. Chris writes from the headlines, so I think that's what I gather. So this one is one called "I Fled the Scene." It starts like this.
Start it out for me, will you? I fled the scene. I fled the scene. It was a crosswalk. It was a crosswalk. He hit the hard top. I ain't waiting for no cop. Take it, Dave. I fled the scene. I fled the scene. It was a crosswalk. It was a crosswalk. I couldn't stop. And I ain't waiting for no cop.
And that's Chris's song. So, little different than mine. This next song is also Chris's song, which is a lot different than that last one. This is one of Chris's instrumentals. I don't know the name of it, but we're going to play it.
Shall remain nameless. It is called Snowman. All right.
Not bad. It was all right.
We
So
made it
that's
through.
Chris's song. It's called Snowman. It doesn't evoke any images of snow to me, but it's nice as it is.
It was Jerry Reed's nickname in Smokey and the Bandit. That's where it comes from.
Well, now you know. And the last song that we're going to perform is one that I wrote a few years ago, and it's called In the Morning Hours. And it's not about anything in particular. It's pretty straightforward. Again, my abstract lyrics don't mean a hell of a lot. They're just placeholders for the song. Right? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. In the morning hours, I thought I heard you leaving, but you were fast asleep and I was only dreaming. I lay awake for hours, sitting up and thinking about you leaving. Telltale signs like the first time you walked away. No longer blind, this love is flatline. A dozen years ago today. Telltale signs like the first time. The first time you disappeared. Said you'd come back before a long time. About another dozen years. But in the morning hours, I thought I heard you leaving, but you were fast asleep and I was only dreaming. I lay awake for hours, sitting up and thinking about you leaving. Telltale signs like the last time you walked away. How much longer for you see mine? I'm sure that it won't be today. Telltale signs through the grapevine, believing everything I hear. No longer blind, I'm gonna take time, 'cause I can't believe my ears. No, in the morning hours, I thought I heard you leaving, but you were fast asleep and I was only dreaming. I lay awake for hours, sitting up and thinking about you leaving. But in the morning hours, I thought I heard you leaving, but you were fast asleep and I was only dreaming. I lay awake for hours, sitting up and thinking about you leaving. I'm thinking about you leaving. I'm thinking about you leaving. I'm thinking about you leaving.